I went to my cheating ex's house with my new man. Yeah, it gets wild. Is this a petty revenge? I went to dinner at my ex's house with my new boyfriend, an old petty revenge from 26 years ago. One ex-boyfriend, Joe, cheated on me, and his parents and sisters were mad about it because I had become very close to them. We broke up, and he started dating the other girl. About 5 or 6 months after the breakup, one of his sisters, Jane, called me and asked me to go out to dinner with her new boyfriend, Bob, and her boyfriend's friend, Jack. Context: she was 28 YO, and all of her girlfriends were over 27, so I was the only girl she knew who was around the same age as Jack. I was 22, and he was 24. We went to dinner, and we hit off, so we started dating. Jack knew about my history with Jane's brother, and it didn't bother him. A few weeks later, my ex-boyfriend's parents had a dinner at their house, which is to say, my ex's house. In Peru, 26 years ago, adult children usually lived with their parents until they got married. And of course, Jane invited Bob, me, and Jack. We had a blast, and my ex didn't leave his room at all. When Joe and I were together, his family always told me that if he did something wrong, they would take my side, and they did. They gave me the perfect revenge. Another revenge. Jack was living in Peru for work, so he shared an apartment with Bob. One night, we were watching a movie in his room. I got thirsty, so he went to the kitchen to get a soda. He asked me from the kitchen if I wanted ice or not, and I answered from the bedroom. When he came back, I asked him why he yelled from the kitchen, since he always came over when he wanted to ask me something, and he told me that my ex was in the living room dropping off some stuff, and he did it so he would know I was in the bedroom. Was that a subtle flex or just straight up savage? Tell me in the comments, petty or perfect? Like if you do the same, and don't scroll without subscribing. This revenge saga ain't over yet.
I messed up big time. I accidentally locked the customer inside the store, and their reaction? Not what I expected. Today, I fucked up by locking a customer in the store, however, they found it hilarious. As the title states, I fucked up today by locking a customer in the store I work at. I work at a small business baby store now. I check every time before I go on lunch to see if someone was in the store. I did just that. I checked the store. After I turn around and do the "will be back soon" sign. Anyway, about 10 minutes into my lunch, my boss calls. She's pissed. She tells me I locked someone in the store. I run to the shop, and here is the security guard, the lady's friend, and the lady stuck in the store, absolutely pissing themselves in laughter. I spent about 5 minutes apologizing and offering for them to shop in the store while the door is closed. They declined and told me to enjoy my lunch. I was and am mortified. Like, how are you finding this funny? How is this the highlight of your day? How did I make your day? Would you laugh if you got locked inside a store? Drop a comment and let me know. And hey, before you escape, smash that like button and subscribe for more wild stories.
I got humiliated at work, and it all started with one email. Today, I messed up by believing a work prank on April 1st and embarrassing myself in front of everyone. At work, my boss sent out an all-staff email saying that the company was implementing a 4-day workweek experiment starting next month. We would all get Fridays off with full pay as long as productivity remained high. I nearly lost my mind with excitement. I even replied, "This is amazing. Best boss ever," before reading the rest of the email, where he mentioned how this was part of a global initiative called April Fools for better work-life balance. Realizing my mistake, I tried to unsend the email, but it was too late. People were already reacting with laughing emojis in the company group chat. To make it worse, my boss personally replied, "Glad to see you're passionate about work-life balance. Unfortunately, your excitement is also part of the experiment how easily employees fall for corporate jokes." But that's not even the worst part. Feeling like a fool, I went home and told my roommate about it, and he tried to comfort me by saying, "Hey, at least you weren't like my friend who fell for that fake celebrity death hoax today." That's when I made a second embarrassing story. I immediately pulled out my phone and went, "Wait, who died?" He just stared at me. Dude, that was the prank. So yeah, my entire day was one long chain of getting clowned on. Moral of the story, triple check everything on April 1st or just trust no one. What was the best prank you fell for on April Fool's Day? Drop your stories in the comments and hit subscribe before I fall for another prank on camera. Can you handle your hot sauce? Who here is into hot sauce? Today, I messed up by drinking an entire bottle of Louisiana hot sauce at a job interview in a failed attempt to be impressive. I have had a number of job interviews recently that went poorly and did not result in securing employment. I started to think I needed to do something during an interview to really stand out, be impressive, unique, and highly memorable. I thought it could be risky, but might work out. I came up with the following idea. After concluding the interview, after the handshakes, etc., when leaving the room, stop, turn around, and say, "There's one more thing you need to know about me." Then pull out a bottle of hot sauce, down the entire bottle, slam it onto the ground, and say, "I can handle the heat." Nod confidently, leave the room. Boom. I imagined that they would be really impressed and wowed by such a performance. Well, it didn't pan out like I thought it would. It was only a small bottle of hot sauce. I figured it would be no big deal to actually do. I should have tested at home first, but I didn't. I was nervous as a bitch ass during the interview, but I was determined to follow through with the plan, so I started exactly as described above. I was leaving. I turned around, maybe not with as much swagger as I'd imagined in my head, and I declared, "There's one more thing you need to know about me." I pulled out the hot sauce bottle, almost dropped it, and started to open the bottle. In my head, it was all one quick, confident motion, like an electric Indiana Jones, but instead, I fumbled around and had a tough time getting it open. It felt like a nightmarish eternity, but was probably only about 20 seconds. Enough time for one of the interviewers to ask me what I was doing. I didn't answer directly. Instead, after I got the bottle open, I repeated, "There's one more thing you need to know about me." I said this while stuttering. Then I guzzled down the entire bottle of hot sauce. I instantly regretted it. My mouth and throat felt like lava was swirling around inside me. I immediately started to gag and loudly cough. I was crying involuntarily, tears hardcore streaming down my face. I was sweating like a terrible fool. I desperately tried to scream. I can handle the heat, but just kept coughing before I could get anything out. The interviewers were all standing up, looking at me in horror and confusion. A few seconds before I threw up all over the floor. I knew it would happen, but I tried to hold it back. I couldn't. I threw up all over the floor. It hurt as much on the way out as it did on the way in, if not more so. The vomit felt like flaming barbed wire shredding its way through my neck. I should mention a disturbing amount of fiery mucus was also leaking out of my nose uncontrollably. After I finished throwing up, I could not bear to look at the interviewers. I hoarsely mumbled an apology and started to stumble as quickly as possible out the door. I have never been more shamed in my life. I didn't get the job, but you hire someone who did this? Drop your verdict in the comments. Smash that like button if secondhand embarrassment just melted your soul. And don't forget to subscribe for more unhinged internet confessions. She called me a witch at my own wedding, and I kicked her out in front of everyone. My husband and I, both 26 years old, got married a couple of weeks ago. During the wedding, my husband's 4 older sisters, all 10 plus years older than him, surprised him with a dance to honor their mom who died when my husband was very young. He danced with each sister individually before all 5 of them danced together. It was such a beautiful moment and a standout for all the right reasons for my husband and his sisters. But during the dance, the stepmother started kicking up a fuss. It started with her trying to storm onto the dance floor and insisting on the dance being with her instead. 2 of my sister-in-law's husbands were trying to stop her. I went over and tried to calm her down, but she was furious. She was talking about assaulting my sister-in-laws for stealing the moment from her. I had to ask my sister-in-law's husbands if they would help me get her out because she was going to ruin it for them otherwise. She didn't like that and told me she's my husband's mother, and if a mother-son dance was going to happen, it only made sense for her to do it. She called me a bitch for helping them plan this and just kept repeating that she was his mother and I had no right to remove her. I told her she was never his mother, and her behavior right now just proved that. Then I alerted security at the venue that we didn't want her to come back in, which they thankfully listened to. It did cause a small disruption, but my husband and sister-in-laws didn't notice it at the time. I did let him know. Father-in-law didn't notice either. He was in another area watching his kids dance. When I told my husband, he was appreciative of me for stepping in and his 2 brother-in-law who helped. His stepmother's fury has not faded though. She has caused such an upheaval and my husband and his dad are fighting about it now too. My husband told them I did nothing wrong and only spoke the truth. His stepmother said she has raised him since he was 7 and she has done so much for him and that the strain from that going unappreciated almost broke them up once already. This was a year ago. Father-in-law and his wife separated for 6 months before working things out, but it did come close to them filing for divorce. My husband and sister-in-laws were not upset by that thought at all and would have welcomed an end to all contact with their stepmother. I have always known that they tolerate the stepmother for their dad. This includes my husband, who was a child when she married his dad. This does not appear to be blowing over, and I hate that this has strained the relationship my husband has with his dad. So I want to ask AIT for my actions, and did I go too far? Should I have kicked her out of the wedding and bit my tongue? Should I have kept her away and waited to see if she would calm down? Was I out of line? Drop your verdict in the comments. Am I the a-hole or the hero? And if you love messy wedding drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, cause we're just getting started.